Hey, Daily Dosers. My name's Austin Payne. I'm one of the high school pastors on our Vista campus. And yesterday we kicked off this new series with Chris Brown talking about sola gratia, right? This grace only, grace alone. And if you missed that one, I encourage you to pause right now, go back and watch that one, and then pick this one up because we're talking about sola fide today, only by faith. What does it look like that we have this life that we now live, but by faith alone? First, by grace alone, the receiving of that grace. And Brown unpacked that yesterday, opening up Ephesians 2, 8, and 9. Maybe a familiar verse for you, that it's by grace and grace alone that we've been saved through faith, not by my works, nothing that I can do, so nobody can boast. And yet it's this free gift that we've received. But now what does it look like to live in the midst of that grace? What does that look like on a random Tuesday? What does it look like this week, this month, to live by faith? And Galatians chapter 2, verse 20 says this: I've been crucified with Christ, and I no longer live, but Christ lives in me. The life I now live in the body, I live by faith in the Son of God who loved me and gave himself for me. Verse 21 says this: I do not set aside the grace of God, for if righteousness or just right standing with God could be gained through the law, Christ died for nothing. He says, I've received the grace of Christ through his crucifixion, through his resurrection. It's no longer that I that live, but it's Christ that lives in me. And now the life that I live in the body, I live by faith. See, the receiving the free gift of God, it would be enough for salvation if I just received it and then died. Right? But that's not the reality for most of us. For most of us, the reality is I receive the grace of God and then I have a life to live. And so Paul writes, he says, how do I live that life? He says, I live by faith in the Son of God who loved me and who gave himself for me. I stole this from a friend of mine, but I love the illustration of it's the difference between minion faith and marijuana faith. And before you click off, this is really helpful for me because one, it's just kind of a funny illustration, but two, it really is the thing that I have to constantly remind myself of what it looks like to live. So Minions, right? Despicable Me 1, 2, 3 through 7. Maybe you have kids or grandkids, nieces and nephews that love this movie. The Minions are the little yellow guys with the overalls that run around. But whenever they play firefighter or policeman, it's always the same thing. They go, be-doo, be-doo, be-doo. That's their siren, if you will. But marijuana faith on the other side is a do-be, right? Do-be, do-be. And a lot of us live our life that way, especially within Christianity. I do, therefore I be. Right? I'm trying to be justified or right with God, his justice satisfied by what I do, by how I act, by my church attendance, by how much I read the Bible, by how much I pray. And I go, I do, therefore me and God we're good. I'm the son of God, I'm a daughter of God. And really what Paul is encouraging us to do through the book of Galatians, that it's no longer I that live, it's Christ that lives in me, and it's the body that I live in now, I live by faith. That faith is believing in God enough to do what he says. But it has to constantly be grounded in the reception of grace. And then I be, therefore I do. Right? I love that illustration of the little minions roll around in my head just going, be, do, be, do, be, do. Right? Can I be a son of God? Can I be somebody that lives by grace and grace alone? It is by grace you have been saved through faith, not of my own doing. And yet, if I'm being honest, I trip and fall back into the do-be all of the time. I think that I can earn a right standing with God. I think I can earn my place with him. And I think that my obedience to him, it gains me something. And I go like, I should be further along, or I should have this standing with you, or my life should look differently because look at all that I'm doing for you. But I love the encouragement that we must first be, we must receive the grace daily on a minute-by-minute, hour-by-hour basis, and then live by faith. I got to be first and then do. I have no business doing anything for God until I have been with him and I've remembered my identity in him. It is by grace and grace alone. It is by faith and faith alone. Let us start there and then act from that place. Thanks, Toasters. We'll see you tomorrow.